Good evening. Good evening. Welcome back, everybody. Thank you again for coming in, joining us tonight. Hi, I am Brady Robinson of Robinson Empowerment Group, and we are going into day 3 or night 3 of our hot topic of divorce, the ugly truth. Now, this has been a very interesting interview. We have been digging deep and diving into this man's example and his story. This is Coach Ricardo Miller's story. This is his perception, his persona of he's opting to speak about his divorce, the ugly truth about divorce. We all know that this is a very touchy subject. Guys, some great information has been shared, a lot of information that can help people move forward, heal, make decisions, things like that make you think about it. If you have not had a chance to subscribe to our channel, please go ahead and do that. Hit that button and go ahead and subscribe. Also, make sure you're hitting that bell so you can get the alert because there is content and video uploaded daily. Also, make sure you like the page, grab that link and share it with a friend. If you know someone that is having a rough time or a hard time in their marriage, contemplating the D word has come up, this will be a great night for them to join in. We are talking to Coach Ricardo Miller. He is about to go into day 3 and dive deeper into this topic, the ugly truth about divorce. And it is an ugly truth. It's an ugly subject. It's hard. It's heartbreaking. It's infectious. And it spreads like wildfire to everyone that's around and that's involved. But before we get started, just wanted to say, give us a recap. This is day 3. Our first night, our topic was heading towards divorce, hiding the truth, hiding the truth. That was very deep. What we learned on that night, I love that. We learned about an annual checkup. Guys, also remember to put your questions in the comments because we are reading every single comment. We are responding. Also, the questions, we are picking some of the questions and answering them right here on live. If not, we will respond to those in the comments, but put your questions and comments in the chat. Day 2 was, which was last night, the topic was pride, shame, embarrassment. That was heavy. That was very heavy because I saw where Coach Ricardo had to talk about some things that are shameful, embarrassing, and can hurt a person's pride. But what I love about this topic this week, I really love that he is volunteering to be transparent, open, and honest. That's what we need, especially from a male perspective. Now, I know we see this all the time. A lot. You know, the ladies will go live. And I want to talk about my divorce on an unprecedented platform or just, but this is a structured interview. I have some great questions. I will be reading from some of my questions. Also, if it's your first night joining us, there are times when he'll be answering a question and I'll need to interject because I want to make sure that you guys are understanding what he's saying and I'm understanding what he's saying so I can move to the next question, but also so that we don't miss the intricate detail. So I'll be jumping in. It's a conversation we're having back and forth. I'm a neutral party. I'm giving him an opportunity to explain his side of it and dig deep into this interview. Guys, make sure you still have time. Reach out, go ahead and send a quick little message. Tell someone to join in. Summer, a season changing. We're coming into summer. That can take a hard hit on relationships. We just came out of a pandemic. We know that the numbers are up. We know that a lot of people are stuck and don't know what to do. Do I stay? Do I go? What I want you guys to take from this is take a tip that will help you. Whether you make your decision to go or stay, that's up to you. But we're talking about the ugly truth about divorce. Okay. So we have in tonight's lesson, we went over what we did. Day one was hiding the truth. Yesterday was pride, shame, and embarrassment. Day three, this is heavy. This is heavy. Friends, family, and church people. Christian. Let me rephrase that. Friends, family, and Christian people. I cannot wait to hear some of the experiences that he went through with family members, Christian people, the ones that's praying for us, that's supposed to be rooting for us. But guys, sit tight as he dig deep into and goes into more of his truth, This is his side of his story. Also, what I do want to thank you guys for coming on. Thank you for the comments that you've been leaving every night. Thank you for sharing it. We're hitting record numbers. We're getting a lot of feedback, and people are crying out for help. And they're so glad to hear this and be a part of this. They're sharing it with other friends. And it's it's an opportunity for someone when you're torn, a way to look at it to make the best decision for you in your marriage and your family. We're going to get started in just a moment. Just a little bit about Coach Ricardo. If it's your first night, he got married in 2000. Coach Ricardo is 45 years old. He filed for divorce in 2018. He shared some very personal and truthful information, and I really appreciate that. So once you get a moment, please go back and watch the other night. Put your comments and information in there. But tonight, guys, this is day three. I can only imagine how you have been having to walk through these last few days, reliving and telling your stories, because sometimes it's like taking the scab off a wound or bringing things up, which we know that influxes feelings. And I just want to thank you again, Coach, for giving me this opportunity to sit with this interview with you. And I just thank you for being honest, because it's time. We need an honest opinion from the male side. It's not fair if we're only hearing the woman's side in the divorce. It's two sides to every story. And you're choosing to be transparent. And I know that's hard for a lot of men. So thank you for being the forefront and the spokesperson to allow some other men, hey, it's okay to talk about it. You don't have to stuff it in. There's something you can do about it. So without further ado, thank you for allowing me to get on my soapbox, but just to tell you how much of an impact these last 2 days have been. And tonight, we're getting deeper. It's going heavier. Guys, don't forget, you still have time. Share, like the page, subscribe so you don't miss anything. That way you can go back and you can share this video with other people. But we are going to get started. And Coach Ricardo, you want to give a small introduction before we get started into our questions?
Thank you, Brady. Once again, I'm excited to be able to share after getting a number of text messages and calls of persons who watch the live over the last couple of days, who are now deciding I'm going to go get my annual checkup for my marriage. Persons who, you know what, we're doing well, but we haven't been paying attention to some things. So thank you for suggesting and recommending some truths. And then there are some guys who just know that they got some work to do and so forth. So thank you for hosting tonight and this week. I'm looking forward to diving into the next talk.
Yeah, thank you for that. And again, thank you for being transparent and volunteering to share your story. Thank you for making that bold decision to do that. But we're going to get started. You've dropped so many nuggets over the last 2 days. Some heavy nuggets, things that have really, I'm getting the feedback and I'm getting the text messages. I did get a couple phone calls today. I'm getting people requesting coaching and counseling, and they don't know where to start. So thank you for sharing that, because I didn't realize that so many people didn't even know where to start. They didn't even know that they need counsel or they're just walking through this alone and stuffing it inside. So you're breaking change, you're setting new strides. So we appreciate that. As hard as this topic may be, step outside of yourself to help free someone else. So we certainly appreciate that. Day three, day three. Guys, listen up. This is heavy because we all have friends, family, and most of us are around Christian people if you're in the effective living community, or you know Christian people, or you know church people. Some people may call their friends religious, whatever you want to title it, but you have friends, family, and Christian people. And I'm excited to hear his truth. As hard and as hurtful it may be for him. But the first question, let's go ahead and jump into this. When going through a divorce, it often affects a lot of other people. Do you agree?
Yeah. You know,
You agree? Explain. Why do you explain? Tell me, how does that affect other people?
well, Brady, the whole focus tonight with friends, family, and let's just say Christian people
Mhm.
is that when you get married, it's a community, a tribe, a lot of people coming together. You get his side, you get her side. You have friends, you have uh, work colleagues. You have a lot of people that gets involved, and so uh, marriage is really not just about two people, even though it should be about two people making sure that they make the commitment to cover, protect, and walk this thing out together. But all in all, there are a lot of people who find themselves really involved in the process of a couple's life together.
Okay. Involved in the couple's life. Give me an example of that. If you and you can change names however you want to do that. Are you saying, like, I mean, we all know about the family and friends, but Christian friend, are they couple friends? Are they your friends only? Were they her friends? Were there, the family's friends? Tell me a little, give me an example about that, how it affected maybe a friend that you guys had, mutual friend or individual friend.
Well, I mean, pretty much at the end of the day, when you're with a person, you all everybody comes together. Her side of the family comes together. Your side of the family comes together. You're worshiping in the same church. I mean, who she works with, who you work with, all become a part of you guys' life. And so there are a lot of people are involved in a couple's life when it comes to living life. And so you can't be going through a divorce and it doesn't eventually affect some people outside of the husband and wife.
That's good. That's a great answer. And also, just if you notice, if you're watching, guys, if you're watching on the screen, it said tonight's quote says, "As you heal and grow, you are no longer comfortable in spaces, jobs, friendships, or relationships that require your silence." That's heavy. That's big. Thank you, that's our Coach Ricardo. Ladies and gentlemen, for those of you that are just joining in or coming on, tonight we're talking about family, friends, and Christian. So that in the life of a person going through a divorce, how important is it that we evaluate and assess who's around us when we're going through divorce?
Wow, Brady, that question, everybody needs to be evaluated. Everybody needs to be assessed. The unfortunate truth is that no matter how long you live, no matter which community you live within, there will be others coming around you as a couple. And so you need to know who's around you. And unfortunately, I've been saying something a lot lately, and that is there are those who have been assigned to help, and then there are unfortunately those who are assigned to hurt. And as a couple, you must know who you're fellowshipping with, who you're connecting with, who you're walking life through with in regards to being a married couple, growing and glowing and showing up every day. At the end of the day, the question is who's around us, because it really, really, really does matter.
Had had you been warned about this before marriage or while before you got to the divorce phase? Had somebody told you to, hey Miller, watch your friends or evaluate who's hanging out with you and her? Who have y'all adopted as a friend? Did you have any knowledge of this or did you learn this after going through what you went through?
No, I always knew that association mattered. I always knew. I think we both knew. It was interesting that we were surrounded by some of the best people on the planet. Uh, I I've never been short of being surrounded by good people. I don't think she would say. I think she would say the same thing. Not she's been surrounded by some good people. We've both been surrounded by some incredible people, and so from the break, we knew that association mattered. You have to watch your company. You know, you not only those who you associate with in person, but those you allow to influence you from on TV, from social media. It chips away at sometimes your principle. Your character can be affected by those who are influencing you, and so it's important to know who's around you.
Okay, while you were going through that during that time, were you were you evaluating people more, or was it a thought that wasn't in the forefront of your mind? And I'm saying at that time, did you start to really look close at your family, friends, and church Christian people, or was that not really a big concern? Because, like you said, you've always been around good people, people that are elevating. But during this time, were you looking closer at them?
No, the no, I really didn't have the need to take too much time in paying attention to people. It's just your fruit tells you who you are, and so I just kept it moving. And it wasn't one of those things where I'm not the suspicious kind of guy who, I'm wondering about everybody. And so, family, friends, and those we worship with over the years, you know, uh, at the end of the day, the vast majority of them were really good people.
Okay, good deal. Next question. What's your view on the position of friends of the person going through a divorce?
Man, friends really matter. I don't think I would have made it without some good friends. I had some good
Hold on.
friends.
So you're saying don't isolate.
Yeah,
This is when you go to your friends
yeah.
because you say they really matter. This is when you need friends, or do you kind of pull away because I'm going through something?
No, no, I'm not a fan of isolation by any means. But what I'm saying is that there are people assigned to be in your life, and so for me, I think friends matter. You know, the unfortunate thing is when you're going through a crisis, the good friends are revealed and the bad friends are revealed. The people that are good for you, oftentimes you see that they really are good people, and the people who are not so good for you, they're often revealed. And so, from a friendship standpoint, uh, I had some good friends, and those friends really were there for me during the roughest challenges of this divorce and troubled marriage season of my life. However, when I started to look and evaluate those who are around us, I started to realize, uh, man, I had some friends, my friends, some of the guys that I really allowed to become accountability brothers in my life. There were just some things they would not allow me to do. You know, they were, my friends would allow me to vent, but my friends would not allow me to sin. My friends would not encourage me to do anything that will destroy my family. And so I personally believe that along the way, uh, I didn't realize how important it is for both of us to talk about the values of both of our friends, because she had male friends, I had some guy friends, and my guy friends today are still my friends today, and her girlfriends would, I guess, would say they're still her girlfriends today. But there were one or two of those girlfriends, I think they were assigned by the devil. I think
I
they
was that
just
was
they
gonna be next. Yes, I was wondering when you said that people will reveal themselves. That is so true. When you're going through a crisis or a pressure time, a hard time, people's true character tend to come out. Were you shocked by any of the people that were in your circle, your friends, that you found, you know what, they don't have our best interest at heart? Did you have any of those experiences?
I was extremely shocked because from a friend perspective, we both had some friends who became mutual friends who pretty much sided on the side of wrong and wrong
Mhm.
in the sense of this ain't right. You know it ain't right. As a matter of fact, I went as far to call two of her closest friends. One of those friends stood in our wedding, and I called one of those friends. I called both of them, and I said, "Hey, man, you know what's going on here? What's up, man? I thought you you know, I thought you had us covered as a family." And one of those friends, the one who stood at our wedding, was very blatant and very forthcoming and said, "Hey, I don't care what my girlfriend do, I got her back." And that was, ooh, I didn't feel good about hearing her come at me like that, but I'm thanking God for distance because she's out of states, and that was a blessing. However, there was another friend who's in East Texas, and I called her and I said, "Hey, man, you know what's going on? I know you know what's going on." She said, "Man, I'm not in it. I'm praying for you guys. It is so unfortunate what you all are going through. Uh, I'm praying for you guys. I'm sorry." That's all she said. The other one, she was just bold, bad, and embracive of bad behavior. And I was like, I really didn't thought that would have been. Now there was another friend as well on her side who says, "Hey, if you keep this type of behavior up, we're not going to be friends anymore." Interesting. It was three different friends. One who says, "Whatever you do," this is the one who went to Bible college, who says, "I'm with her no matter what," and knew she was doing something that was wrong. And then there was one who was a minister who says, "You know what? I don't like what's going on here." And she knew what was happening, but she says, "Listen, right now, this whole thing is being revealed and it's not looking good. I'm praying for you guys." And then there was one who just had a standard and say, "Listen, if this is how you showing up, we're not going to be able to be friends." It was very interesting to watch those play out.
Okay. Reminds me of you have camaraderies, constituents, and you have everybody plays a role, and a lot of times you won't see until they're up against the wall. That's good. What is your view on the position of family members? We talked about friends, family members. This is blood.
Yep.
This
You
is
know,
blood, and
hey,
and sometimes blood can hurt you harder than a stranger or a friend.
well, I love blood. I have an incredible blood
That's good.
family blood support group, and she has an incredible support group. I came to Texas, and I didn't have any family. I
Okay.
didn't have any family. I came here and it was just me, and so outside of my son, it's still just me. But I can remember my mother sending me off, and it was stay. I was welcome and I was invited in the family. I was
Okay.
welcome and invited in the family and I was in the family as a beloved, I would have assumed. But I was amazed by the patriarchs in the family when the behavior started to come out that this is the type of behavior that we're going through as a couple. There were family members who wanted me to bow to this type of behavior. And so, I don't think family members need to be up in your relationship. I don't
At
think
all.
friends need to be all up in your relationship and stuff. But for those who decide to open their mouth, I mean, I think they should have a standard. I think if you're gonna say something that is standing on principle that is right, not compromised. And so it was just unfortunate when it came to what I was going through, what we were going through from a divorce standpoint. We saw and I experienced friends who stood and stand on good principles and
Hmm.
says this ain't right because they were close enough. Now the truth is a lot of people weren't close enough, but these people were close enough to
Okay.
have something to say.
To
And
have
so
an
tonight,
opinion.
yeah,
Okay.
they had an opinion. And so tonight I want to give attention to the fact that in a marriage, you have to pay attention to the people who you do call as friends, her or him, you or her. At the end of the day, you have to pay attention to that circle from a friendship standpoint and from a family standpoint. All family members aren't created equal. And not because some people have age on them, mean they have wisdom on them. And so there was this season in our life when we sat down with a couple in the family that was the patriarch,
Hmm.
and had I listened to them, I would have lost my manhood. I would have lost my raw as a man, and would have compromised being who God created me to be. And I said, no, no.
Were you able to say that to that person at that time, or did you
I
have
said
to
that to that person at the time. I
get
still, and I got blasted. When I was going through the divorce, the whole thing was, I said, how in the world that I'm the bad guy? How am I the bad guy when I'm not the one causing us to have to go through a divorce? I mean, come on, y'all. And I'm the only one here. And these are people who told my mother, we got him covered. And I ended up finding myself living by myself, finding myself having to cover and protect myself with my network and friends that were around me that made sure stood with me. But my initial family that so-called adopted me
right?
really revealed themselves. It was very, very hurtful. It was very, very hurtful to go to more than 15 Thanksgiving, to go to more than 15 Christmas, to go to 4th of July events, to be the only one from literally out of the country, the only one presiding here. I have no one else here. As a matter of
Mhm.
fact, it was really interesting when my son said to me one time, he said, Dad, you being from the Bahamas and not having any friends and family that you grew up with that's right here with you, that must have been hard over the years. And I said, no, it's what men do. The Bible says, leave and cleave. I took the responsibility to take care of my family. But I thought when I initially got here, I was being adopted into another family here in Texas. But boy, they did not show up and look out or covered me or encourage me to have a standard. Neither did they come into our home, the ones who were close enough to just really say, you know what, I'm going to speak truth to the moment and say niece or to say daughter or to say sister or to
Mhm.
say, cousin, get your act together. No, that wasn't the case. As a matter of fact, somebody just posted on Facebook, Ricardo's selfish. Ricardo's all into himself. I said, wow, how did this become me? But it was very, very painful dealing with some friends who revealed themselves. It was very, very painful dealing with some family members who had revealed themselves.
Okay. We covered family members, we covered friends. Let's move into a deeper, I would say, a deeper group of people. Hey, may not be for you, but I know a group of people that's near and dear and do have some type of influence in your life. With that, I'm sorry, what's your view on the position of fellow Christian people in the life of the person going through a divorce? Christian people, or some people may say church friends, church family.
Brady, I'm surrounded once again. I have to say
Mhm.
this because I like the fact that I'm a people's person. I love people. And so I have a phenomenal community around me. But when I was going through my worst season in my life, I was amazed again by the response of a number of Christian people who, unfortunately, I mean, they had no clue what was going on, and yet they were giving opinion. And I learned in the midst of it how the Bible talks about, sort of how to be slow to judge
Yes,
and so forth. And so
that was one
for
of.
me, we were going through a horrible time, and I felt seriously judged by a lot of people. But I am grateful that I am a part of a church family. I'm grateful that I came out of a great church family in the Bahamas that really just stood, encouraged, and prayed for me. But then there was those Christian individuals who are believers, but yet they chose to come and respond in a way that you didn't even know what's going on. Why are you showing up and giving such a strong opinion in the life of a couple who is going through something, but you don't know them like that? And I don't think we were bringing our issues to social media or bringing our issues to the world or on the streets. But yet I got dealt with. I had somebody mention, I told one guy called me and just sort of outright rebuked me. He said, you've traveling all around the place. You know what? You got to take care of your family. Okay, all right. I'm gonna just keep it. I'm gonna zip it. I'm gonna hold my I'm gonna hold myself together and allow God to deal with this. And then there were those who really prayed. There were
Mhm.
those who I don't know what's going on. I don't need to know what's going on. I
Yeah,
just want to pray for you. Hey, I'm praying for
yeah.
both of you. And so there were those. It's the same way. It's amazing how, you know, when everything looks like it's going well, you
Mhm.
see the people in your life who have a tendency of just being loud with you. But when your life starts to go through some major bumps in the road, how it reveals who's really there with you and who's for you. And so during that time, there were some phenomenal Christian men and women. There were some phenomenal individuals who would call and text and literally said, hold your head up. You're going to be all right. But I still felt so bad. I felt so overwhelmed by the fact that this is what I'm going through. This is what we're going through. And it was getting out more and more. And obviously, I was still traveling and having to accept the fact that I'm going through a divorce.
Now, you mentioned that you felt judged
Yeah.
by, we're talking about guys, we're talking about family, friends, and Christian people. Ugly truth about divorce, having to deal with each group of people. He just revealed that pretty much each group have the ones that's all for it, not for it. I'm just gonna pray about it, stay out of it. When you felt that you were being judged, did that pressure you or make, I don't want to say pressure, but did that kind of make you, did I not do this? Did it give any pressure for you to not go through with your decision? I mean, you felt judged. You mentioned that it made you feel bad.
It did make me feel bad. It made me. At the time, I've since learned that nobody can make me feel bad.
Right.
I had to since learn to develop myself to a point where you have an opinion and that's just your opinion. But at the time, it was overwhelming for me
Yes. Okay.
because a lot of these people I respected, a lot of these people I loved, a lot of these people I seek counsel for. When I bought my home, a lot of these people came and worked around my house. We hang out and we fellowship and so forth. I remember a brother, a Christian brother. I called him up and I said, "Man, listen, let's talk." And we were talking. He said, "Man, listen, it's overdue for us spending some time together, Brady." And he says, "Man, what's going on? I just feel like we need to talk." We went to a restaurant,
Mm-hmm.
and the interesting thing about it is, he was the wife of one of her best friends, and so I said, "Okay, I don't really do the best friend and the wife thing. That wasn't our natural thing that we had going on. It was her best friend, the husband, him and I was cool, but we weren't best friends or anything."
Right.
And we went out, and man, it was just such a rough day for me. And I know him as a leader in his church, and I shared with him when we went out. I said, "Hey man, I'm going through a really rough time." This was the first guy that was an extended guy who was not necessarily my inner circle. And I shared with him what was going on, and he kept pulling, and then I felt like, hold on, you're pulling, but you're not ministering.
Okay.
So it almost sounded like you're trying to collect content. And I decided I was pulling back and didn't say anything else, and we talked, and he left and and spread news about me. And just went out and didn't even call me back. Never called me back after that. I'm talking about, this was like one of the worst days of my life. But I had to tell myself, don't hold that against the brethren.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to leave that as a charge to him. So I'm not going to dismiss people in general. I'm just going to dismiss him and say I'm not going to deal with him. It was the same case when it came to the lady who stood in our wedding. I said, my God, this is a person who stood in our wedding. For anything that could destroy our marriage, why would you say to me, the husband of the wife, that, you know what, no matter what she does, I'm going to stick with her? That was hurtful. That was painful. It was the most angriest part of the process for me, is to hear somebody say, I don't care what she does, that's my girl, I got her back. I was like, okay.
Wow.
All right. I'm gonna let that be what it is. But at the end of the day, I had to, and I still to this day have asked God, help me to guard my heart.
Mm-hmm.
Help me to accept what I see that is truth that I'm experiencing from people, but help me to not hold it against people. Help me to get to the point where I start to realize, people make mistakes. I get it. I've made mistakes. I'm not perfect,
Mm-hmm.
but when I was going through the roughest moments in my marriage, when I picked up the phone call and called a couple of the guys from our church who was walking with me, it was a blessing to know that they were there for me. When I called a couple of my family members and had a family meeting, and my mother had to come and console me a couple of times, and just that to me, that was a blessing. However, it's amazing, Brady. You know, you can have 25 people around you cheering you on and encouraging you to stay positive and keep your head above water. But that one person who disappoints you, the potency of their negative disappointment has a way of lingering and hanging around so much longer that the enemy oftentimes use that as hate that actually damages the heart and hold us back from our freedom. And that's what I felt as though I was starting to feel about some of our family members. I started to feel, because some of them has never called me. You know, some of them, they don't know how I eat, how I drink. But these were the people who told my mother when I was 25 years old, when I got married, hey, we got him. But here's the deal, I didn't need them to have me because I had my family. I protected my family. I provided for my family. I was the leader for my family. I came here and I represented at the highest level. And then she did some things that was about to destroy and tear apart all that we had built. And when we had this family sit down moments, I was being asked to, this is a season to submit myself to this. When I was like, no, I'm sorry. I've tolerated and I could tolerate and let go. But there are some things I'm not going to let go and let untolerate.
Okay. Did it seem as if they were just saying to this will pass, just let it blow over, and you guys will be back
I
okay?
think they were. I think they were bad spirited people.
Okay.
I think some people are bad spirited people,
So
and
were they for the divorce or were they for you to stay together?
I think some people are jealous of you and they don't say it. And I think some people are intimidated by you and they don't say it. I think some people are just insecure about the way you show up and they have not said it. And I said to her a couple of times, I said, unfortunately, the people who appear to be okay with this, all of them are beneath you in regards to you are showing up and being so much more online with being a higher standard light bearer, an example setter in your family, among some of these friends who just really did not uh, uh, in, enforce the right principles that they saw you should have been enforcing by recommending, hey girl, you got too much going on for you and your family. Why are you doing that? Hey, no, not, if I know what you're doing, let me tell you something. The 12 guys or so, I got a guy group around me, a community around me. There's
Mhm.
not one of those guys that had I told them that I was doing things that would destroy my family, would not rebuke me, address that to the core, and probably say, bro, you on your own because it's unacceptable. But in the midst of every single one of my guy friends, every single one of them, when I called them, they still held me accountable for my integrity and the way that I was supposed to show up in the world, no matter what I was going through. They said, you know what? Don't do nothing stupid. You hold your head up. You walk like how you're supposed to walk. One guy would call in the morning, or someone else would call in the evening, someone else would call on the weekend. I had spiritual mothers in my life that covered me and protected me from allowing myself to be overtaken by the concerns of this divorce that I was going through. The unfortunate thing, though, is what I want to give highlight to tonight is the friends and the family members that you know. Hold on. Watch this, Brady. Watch this. You know, when you all were shining, growing, and glowing, they never was around. When you all were progressing, accomplishing, and acquiring assets, they were never around. Now that you're doing things that can destroy your family, they want you to have an
Mm.
all-girls trip to Vegas. Well, when you're starting to do things that literally goes against what will keep you on the track of making a mark in your family, they started to show up and suggest things. What is that? That's the devil.
I was just gonna say that's the enemy. That's the okay, okay. You unveiling is making so much sense. Okay, but it sounds like what you were saying. All of that goes right back to what you said when we kind of got started. Being careful of the opinions that you allow to be heard from your friends and your family and your church members, things like that. You're very cautious of whose opinion you allow to seep in, and you have to be. That's very good. That's
Brady,
very
before you go on, someone asked the question, how
okay.
did you get over the hurt from family members? You know, I don't consider myself to be no holy roller. Okay, as a matter of fact, I'm going to talk about the fact that I spoke with my ex, and I got a list of things that she would have said, because somebody asked the question last night, what would she say? And
Okay.
I wanted to know, what would she say? And I wrote those down, and I'm going to do a series of talk on those, because the truth is, I'm going to dissect what she would have said was my deficiencies. But to answer your question, I'm saying I connected that to say this. I'm not saying I'm perfect, but this one thing I do know: God has given me the gift and the ability and the strength to learn how to guard my heart. Let me tell you something. I have had my share of bad treatment.
Mhm.
And when I was going through my divorce, I went through the most horriblest of experiences, but my heart was never affected. And so when it came to the family members that was not representing family, I was angry, but I prayed for them. I said that I don't want anybody to be alive, and I can't show up in a room and not feel free to be in the same room with them. Now let me tell you something. That girl who snapped at me and said no matter what
Mhm.
my ex do, she was a different story. I think I transfer all of my anger towards her for a moment.
Mhm.
It's almost like somebody gonna feel the wrath, and I felt really angry
And
that
that
you.
now see that's being transparent,
Yeah,
because we're talking about when you're in the midst of a divorce, you're broken, you're hurting, you don't know what to do, you're not as strong as you are today. So talk about that. That yes, it's okay. You were angry with that person for saying that, but you knew how to get yourself back on track. That's what we need to hear when you were going through that, because when we're going through a crisis, we don't always think with all the tools we've learned and the things that we know we should do, right?
yeah. One
We
of
act-
my
yeah,
one of my mentors, my spiritual father, called me during the roughest time of my divorce, when we were going
okay.
through a very, very rough time. And he said, son, here's what I have to tell you. This is the time you're gonna have to live what you've been preaching. Hardest words I've ever heard in my entire life. He said, this is where you're gonna have to live what you've been preaching. And I chose to find ways to incorporate what I believe is the proper behaviors of how the scriptures would say I was supposed to
Mhm.
respond. And was I perfect along the way? No. I've had some of the moments, man, I was angry. I had my cussing moment and all. I wanted to fight and couldn't fight because I know I didn't want to get arrested.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
I knew I wasn't gonna get arrested. I wasn't gonna hit nobody, but boy, it sure did feel like it. But there was support around me that says, calm down.
Keep it calm.
And this is what I'm grateful for, that when I looked at the friends and family and church people that were in my life, I'm grateful for the fact that I'm a strong believer that everybody should have someone in their life that they respect enough to say, shut up.
Okay.
Don't
That's
say
heavy.
anything. Don't move. Don't respond. And I have more than a dozen people who could call me up like that. And they were all present at a very, very high level. When they told me what to do, I was responding to the advisors in my life that helped me to stay the part. And how I knew it wasn't just telling me what to do, but it was
Mhm.
biblically supported, it
Yes.
was spiritually sound, and
Mhm.
it was Holy Spirit led. You knew that they
Absolutely.
were giving counsel to sustain me. As a matter of fact, one of them says, if you do what you're supposed to do and act right in the sight of God, you're not going to lose anything. For a moment, I almost felt like I don't know if I lost anything, but I know what he said and I know what he meant, and I complied, and I submitted myself to good counsel, and I was able to navigate through one of the worst storms in my life.
That's one. That's heavy. That's heavy, and that's why this interview all week. is so important because you do understand that there are people going through divorce, talking about it, and they're doing it by themselves. They don't have a men group, they don't have a girls group. Um, there's someone watching that may be dealing with it all alone because of the shame and embarrassment. We covered that last night. And tonight we're talking about family, friends, and church members. But there are some people that may not have that, or they may not feel open to share with their family member, their friend. What would you tell them to kind of help them, to let them know that it's okay, that you don't walk through this alone because it'll eat you alive, right?
During your greatest challenging moments, one of the things that I believe that is critical is that you got to pray. You
Okay.
got to get on your knees. Now, here's the deal. I initially was praying to keep her. I was
Hmm.
initially praying to hold this together, Lord. And then I started praying, whatsoever your will is, may that be done in my life. But I believe that it is critically important that you spend time in prayer. But here's the deal. Then you ask God for the spirit of discernment. I believe that the spirit of discernment is you. And that's where you start to realize that even though that guy had called me and said, hey, let's have lunch, and I felt as though he was saying, listen, we need to talk, and believe me, you could talk to me about anything. To me, I felt as though he was calling me because come to find out his wife was cheating on him. And so he was trying to figure out what's going on here with your wife. And so the reality of it is, I'm like, you know what? You discernment was necessary. Discernment is healthy, and discernment is given by the Spirit of God. And I believe that it's important that you discern who's around you, who's for you, and believe me, there are a lot of people who look like they for you, but they're not really for you. And the older we get in faith, the older we get as adults, I think it's important that you sharpen your skills. So for that person who is there pondering and going through this challenge, you got to get on your knees and you really got to pray to ask God to give you wisdom. You got to ask God to give you the spirit of discernment. And then you need to ask God to give you the ability to identify those who are assigned to help you. Nobody's alone.
We
I don't
got
believe
we
that.
got a great question. Excuse me, sorry for jumping in, but this chat, it's some great questions. People are asking for help, and we really need to talk about this. I have a question saying, how long did you pray before you could be in her presence and not feel pain?
It wasn't only prayer that kept me uh, to a place where I became stable enough to be in the presence of any of those persons who disgust me.
Hmm.
My therapist who helped as well. It was my Christian brothers and a couple of my spiritual parents who advised me at a higher level to be able to have all of the components necessary to be able to be in the midst of someone who have done me wrong at a very high level and not have aught against them.
That's good. I have, and I'm going to give you about one or two more questions that they're asking about our point that we're talking about now. And this question came up a couple of times. How did you get over the hurt from the family members that hurt you? That was
Yeah,
the family members that was supposed to have your back. They
yeah,
told your mom.
yeah. I chose to forgive. I chose to ask God. Once again, I mentioned earlier that I'm a strong believer in guarding your heart with all diligence.
Hmm.
Listen, I've had my share of life challenges that have presented itself to me that was unfair. I believe that if I still had not addressed the learning or the way to learn how to guard my heart, I would have been
Hmm.
an angry man today. I would still be an angry man because there were a lot of unfair dealings during my divorce. And so learning how to guard your heart, because the scripture says it, guard your
Yeah.
heart with all diligence. Not only did it say guard your heart, it says this. Another scripture says, watch this, woe to him that offense may come. People will offend you, but the question is how do you respond to the offense? And so I really am appreciative that I had grown enough or at a place as a believer to not be offended. My ex, her and I, we are divorced now, but I'm still not offended.
Right.
I'm
Okay.
still not offended. I said to her not so long ago, I forgive you, and I've moved on, and I'm clear-headed, and I'm pure-hearted in this season of my life.
Okay. I'm gonna go ahead. Let's go ahead and go to the next question. We have to address a lot of these things in the chat, guys. We are going to get to your questions. I see a lot of concerns and questions in the chat. this is really a breakthrough for a lot of people. Next question. What was the most painful part of going through a divorce in relation to those three groups of people? Now you talked about the friend and that made you angry. That just made and that ticked you off. But what was the most painful part? Was it from a family member, a friend, or a church member?
It was family.
Oh,
It was family members. I would have never see. I'm from, man. Listen, man. I'm from the Bahamas, and we call it the family of islands. So there is just some things you just don't do to family. And so when I was called and labeled your family, I felt that that meant something. And so when I was going through the roughest season, when we were going through our roughest season, I would say it was extremely disappointing to think about what some family members, how they responded or how they failed to respond. I'm like,
uh,
hey, hello.
the
Do you
silence,
see?
the silence was just as hard or the ignoring
There,
it as
to
the
me, it
comment.
wasn't a silent, it was an endorsement. It was an endorsement of inappropriate
Ooh, that's good. That's
behaviors
heavy.
that see, I know my mama, I know my grandmother, I know my auntie. Some things I don't care. I could not go to the Bahamas and do foolishness and my aunties and my mother endorse, embrace when they know
Mm,
I have a wife. You can't be doing fool and you got a wife and
yeah.
you're my son or you're my nephew. You're gonna be called out and you're gonna be corrected or be challenged to change your ways. But that wasn't the case. I was really disappointed. To me, it was like I ended up feeling as though, some family members don't have no standard. And you
Hmm.
got to know that not because they're family, that when you marry into a group, if you see
Hmm.
that there's no standard there, you need to start examining your relationship and asking yourself,
Mm,
can we sustain what our history or our generational line represents? Sometimes our generational line is so messed up that as a couple, you have to stop and say, hey, listen, there is no standard in our family in relation to these couple behaviors. And if these behaviors would occur in our marriage, will your family support the bad behavior, or will your family call you out because we got a good thing going on? And so, had I known that this was something as a couple that we needed to talk about, family standards that goes against what both of us should believe. Because let me tell you something,
mm,
when you do right,
yeah.
and you have people encouraging you to keep doing right, it increases your chance to keep doing right.
That's
But when
true.
you do wrong and you have people encouraging you to do wrong and they're willing to cover up your wrong, it increases your chances of doing wrong as well.
That's heavy. That makes them guilty as well. That's heavy. Okay, our next question. Was there was there a role these three groups of people played while you were married? We identified there was. But would you say there was any influence of outside entities that played in either encouraging you to stay married or in expediting your divorce?
No, the my accountability brothers and spiritual moms and pastoral oversights, it was a blessing to have them in my life because as much as I ask, give me your opinion at the highest level. What decision do I need to make? And
Mm.
and tell me what I need to do. They all said that's none of our job. They were all that's none of our job. Now I went to one of those family members, one of the patriarchs on the family member side here
Mm.
in the Dallas Fort Worth area, and I said, man, this is what I need. He said, man, you need to leave her. You need to leave her. She ain't no good, and it's a family issue. And he is one of the patriarchs that's encouraging foolishness. And so I'm like, hold on, listen, I'm trying. I want to keep my wife, but
Right.
this you. So that's when I realized you'll be amazed who don't want to see you married,
Wow.
who want to who want to see you, who don't want to see you thrive, who don't want to see you win, because I would not have anticipated that coming from this person, but this person was very comfortable and willing to tell me leave my wife, and I was thinking, but all of my ministerial circles, they said you better pray, and
Hmm.
whatever God tells you to do, that's what you need to do, and we're standing here with you, and I'm extremely grateful for that. So I once again, were there people influence the whole dynamics of
Mhm.
this final decision. Nobody finally made the decision for me. I had to make the decision. I felt as though after getting professional help, there was a moment where I felt as though God released me to move on. I had, and I'm going to talk more about that on
Mhm.
another night, but God released me to move on. And once He released me to move on, there was still the struggle of having to deal with these three groups of people that were so noisy in my life.
The
I
loud
didn't.
noise.
I did not live a life that was set apart from not having a community around me. The community around me in these three groups of people were large. They were big, and they were very vocal. And I'm grateful. My Bahamas family never came and gave their opinion or voice on either side of the whole scenario.
Mhm.
And whenever there was a comment coming from the Bahamas, it was, "Cuz, we praying for you," or "Nephew, we're praying for you." That was about it. And I even had this. My mother called and says, "Listen, stuff happens. Y'all don't have to be disgusting. Respect for each other. Blah blah blah." And I
Yeah.
was like, "This is. Can you say this is the kind of advice you're supposed to get? Y'all need to be decent people. Y'all are both been raised well, and y'all have principles y'all were taught, and y'all made it up to this point. Y'all have done really well as a couple. But right now, some decisions were made where Ricardo is deciding, I think y'all should just be decent about the final draw and moving to the next phase of separation." And I was like, wow, that thank God for my mama.
Yeah, and it sounds like here's the thing: with you were accustomed to a certain way from your family, but to be having the same situation dealt with completely different. That's the ugly truth about divorce. You're not just marrying her; you're marrying her family. She's not just marrying you; she's marrying your family. And when, like you said at the
But
beginning,
then,
when a
see,
crisis come, you'll
I gotta
see.
say this, Brady, but you gotta watch them red flags, because here's the deal: when me and her were
Talk
doing
about that.
well,
Talk about that.
when me and her are doing well, and her cousin wasn't doing well with her relationship, but how she would show up at different events, or this person or how that person, the Bible said you will know them by their fruit.
Yes. Hmm.
And see, sometimes we turn a blind eye to stuff, and sometimes we think it'll never happen to us. We think we'll never be in that seat. And so listen, you gotta ask God to give you an eye to see, give you an ear to hear. I
Hmm.
was not walking with an eye open and an ear to hear, and with an understanding in my heart as what was going on around me. Not until later in the game where
Okay.
I started to realize, hold on, this is worse than it needs to be, and we're going to need to address this. Her and I are going to need to address this. And I tried my best to see, okay, can we see if we can get some support to connect with us to help us through this? But you have to pay attention to those who are around you. Not everybody is assigned to help you. Some people are assigned to hurt you.
That's true. That's true. We have a comment in here, and some of the fellows are speaking out. Women voice their pain. A lot of men shelter their pain. So we're really grateful that you are able to open up and talk about this. Maybe it'll encourage someone else to do the same. I have another question. What is the greatest lesson you've learned in dealing with people outside of your marriage while going through a divorce?
The thing that I came into marriage with that I did not have, I came into marriage not having, not understanding, was who I was. Now, I knew my purpose, but I did not know how to independently assess my environment and be
Mhm.
able to be the man or the leader that literally protects my family from external or even sometimes internal influences that can affect it. What have I
Mhm.
learned? I have learned, once again, it's a principle that I wrote in my book. There are some people that are good for you, and there are some people that are bad for you. And they are in all three of those groups. There are some people who
Yeah.
are in family that's good for you, and there are some people who are in family that's not good for you. Not because their family means they get an automatic pass as good. Not because they've been lifelong friends mean that they need to continue to go with you as you're growing, because you may have started to realize some of the principles that you're living by they're not enforcing in their life. So you need to pull back. And then there are some people you go to worship with, and from a faith standpoint, you're not. They may not be delivered from certain things. And so the truth is, what I've learned is to study those around me and learn how to embrace me Along the way, I overly concern myself with the opinions of everybody. The reason why I can do tonight, last night, and the night before is
Mm-hmm.
because I believe I'm free. I am free, and I'm free with my ex. I am free with my family on both sides. I am free with my son. I am free with myself. I did not do the work to make sure that I was at a good place. Initially coming into this thing, being married, I did all that I could to make sure that I had the best marriage possible. However, when things started to fall apart, what I started to see and understood about people, I'm better now guarded with an understanding on watch those that are around you.
That's good. Tonight, it's amazing because this topic tonight, family, friends, and church people, the ugly truth about divorce. The chat is it's really some heavy things in there. And I'm gonna give one more snippet from the chat that someone put in there that I feel like we should address. What response were you expecting when you asked for their opinion on what you should do? I've seen that question a couple
Yeah,
times in the chat tonight.
yeah. It's interesting that that question was asked, but there was
Mhm.
I wanted someone to tell me leave her from the inner circle, like my spiritual dad or my pastor. There was times I wanted someone to leave her, which would have been one of those person, and
Would
then
that
there
have,
were
excuse me, would that have been easier for you if you said, if you just tell me what to do
I I
or what
I
I
was
should do?
I was raised. See, let me tell you something. One of the things I learned in this whole thing, we teach obedience, but we don't teach independence. And I was taught to follow instruction from those who have been assigned in my life as instructors. But instructors have to also teach you how to independently come to conclusions by yourself. And I did not know how to come to the conclusion by myself. They, for the most part, most of them had instructed me for a long time, and I followed their instructions. But now it came to a place in my life where I needed to make a decision independent of
Mm,
them. And
okay.
I asked them for an instruction, and they started saying, "This is not a time for us to give you an instruction. This is a time for you to make an independent decision." And I personally don't believe I was skilled in learning how to independently respond. And so, what I was looking for from the
Hmm.
ministerial circle in my life, I was looking for them to say leave. I don't know if I would have left. But then from the family side, on her side, I was looking for them to correct her, to say you're wrong. I mean, even when this whole thing fell apart, I was looking for them to say, "Hey, nephew, you did your best, and we're proud of you. And you came here and you held your head up, and you became a professional. You provided for your family. Oh, we're sorry." I never had one person say I'm sorry. I had one part. I had more people saying, "Well, he don't ever stop being on Facebook."
Okay. Well, I'm not going to address that, but if that's good, but I know everybody has their comments. I have one more question for you. I'm going to hold that because the chat is going up. I have a question here. Do you really owe everyone an explanation? Many people ask me what happened. You look like a great Christian couple.
Yeah.
They just don't want to talk about it.
I don't think I owe anybody an explanation.
Okay. Okay.
I personally felt as though that I wanted to help. I believe my life is an open book. My life will always be an
Hmm.
open book. Anything and everything that's about me will probably one day all be in a book, because
Right.
I am not afraid to open my book and reveal who I am. And that's the reason why I have an interest to do a number of other talks, and I'm not afraid to answer any of your questions. In addition, you say many people, we really did look good. We were doing well. I thought we were doing exceptionally well. I
Hmm.
thought we were doing well to the point where I was shocked to realize the magnitude of the problem we had when it revealed itself. And that's the reason why, if you watch the first night, I highly suggest that you get annual marriage checkup, because don't just automatically assume that you're doing well. It's like the annual physical checkup.
Hmm.
You could be living for a while only to go ahead and find out that you have something at a category 4, a level 4, that's a major issue. And you say, "Oh my goodness, where did that come from?" Well, for the most part, for me, that's how I felt. I felt blindsided. When did this happen?
And went
And
like from 0 to 10. I mean,
for
like
me,
for you, this
and
is your truth, your
yeah,
perception. Right. Okay. I understand that. Okay, that's good. And thank you for answering those questions. My last question, and then I can see if I can pull some from the chat. My last question for you, as an effective living management coach, how are you helping people to live above the opinions of those around them that may not be good for them?
I just think what I've learned lately more than anything else is you better do the work to know who you are
Knowing who you are.
and to know who you are. And I think I initially started that journey early on, and I've
Mhm.
become much stronger in that. So initially, that's why I did not break. A lot of what I experienced, a lot of people unfortunately did not respond the way that I was able to respond. And I'm extremely grateful to God that during my darkest moments,
Mhm.
because I had started to learn that that's not me. You're not going to be the one to determine my response. I'm going to be the one to determine my response. And I'm going to make sure that my response doesn't become one that I regret. And so discover you. I would say as in it, there are so many couples who they blame each other for where they are when the truth is some of them are buckets with holes, and no matter what you do for them,
Right.
you can't satisfy them because they have issues beyond you. And so the truth of the matter is a lot of the issues that are in marriages are not the couple, the other person. A lot of it is the person complaining about the problem.
Mm.
And so if you do the work on you and they do the work on themselves and you all are together, chances are you'll make it. And if I knew that early on and have a partner who made that same type of commitment, because it takes two to make that kind of type of commitment, I'm going to do the work to make sure that I'm the best husband that you will ever have. And if
Right.
that other person said, I'm going to do my best to make sure I'm the best wife that you will ever have, I'm going to establish these principles to live by as a husband that you agree with. I'm going to establish these principles as a wife that you agree with. We both agree that we're going to independently stand on the right principles from the Word of God and from a healthy marriage model. And when we come together, we make for a good one or good, wholesome couple versus one person is trying and the other person doesn't care. One
Mm.
person is
Okay.
discovering what they should be addressing because they're trying to address them. What I discovered is that most people are pointing the fingers because they are not wanting to do the work on themselves. And that's what I've been doing over the past 5 years, learning me, discovering what God placed in me so that whatever a category 5 reveal itself in my life, which is what I believe happened. My divorce was a category 5 hurricane and a category 5 tornado all in one. But I'm still here standing, all but the grace of God.
Yes. That's good. Thank you so much for sharing. That's awesome. That's awesome that you made it through, but I know that was a painful and hurtful time. One last comment from the chat. I saw it, learning how to embrace you. You mentioned it, learn how to embrace you. That is so good. We have a couple more comments just saying this is so deep. They're saying go deeper. Wow, deep. I mean, this is really a breakthrough for so many people. That was my last question for the night. Did you want to expound on any of those points you talked about tonight before I close us out?
Brady, tomorrow night, I'm going to be talking about getting help
I was gonna say yes.
during going through your divorce. I'm going to be talking about how the process after deciding that I was going to get divorced, the real dynamics of the help part, that how that play out. But at the end of the day, you are responsible for you.
Mhm.
You are responsible for you, and I'm responsible for me. And now I'm responsible to ensure that I'm a good example for my son. I'm responsible to be continuously a good example for
Mhm.
other believers. My goal is to learn how to improve in every area of my life. This was only a part of my life at a particular time. I'm not my past. There's so much brighter days in front of me, but I'm learning from my past and I'm teaching the lessons that I've learned, and
Mhm.
I'm opening it up to allow others to just pick what they need, which I what I
Yeah,
call eat the watermelon, spit out the seed, grab what's for you, keep it moving, because the goal is to live and prosper and to thrive in whatever that is God placed you in.
that's good. Thank you. Thank you for being transparent. Thank you so much for being transparent. So many nuggets, so many takeaways tonight. You heard it, guys. You heard tomorrow's topic is getting help through your divorce. You have to join us tomorrow. We have covered 3 days. We went deep 3 days. Tomorrow is getting help through your divorce. A lot of people don't know where to go. They don't even know how to get help. What do you do? What do you start? We are going to answer those questions for you on tomorrow. Don't forget, guys, like, subscribe, copy this link and send it to a friend if they didn't get on. If you know someone struggling, if you know someone you see, I see that they kind of moving different. Send it to that person. It may help someone. It may help someone make a decision. Guys, thank you. Make sure you join us here at the same time tomorrow at 7:30. Tomorrow's our day four. Day four. We're wrapping it up. And every night it's getting deeper and deeper. Put your comments, like I said, keep sending your questions, your comments. Go back and look at the video. If you have not watched day one, if this is your first night, please go on there and watch day 1 and 2. It's mind blowing. I'm telling you, it's really good. It's leading up to this. It'll make so much more sense. Again, tomorrow at 7:30. Guys, if you have not gotten his book, The Effective Living book, if you have not gotten his book, sorry, I have a glare. Make sure you get it. He talks a little bit about this same topic in the book. You can get that off his website at ricardomiller.com. Make sure you check out his coaching packages, things like that. It's a lot of great stuff on that website. Without further ado, I will see you all tomorrow at 7:30. Tomorrow we're talking about getting help through your divorce. Thank you guys for joining. Thank you for spending the last 3 nights with us. You all have a safe evening and good night.